This is FLN 11, which is volume of a three-dimensional object. Volume is defined as the amount of space a three-dimensional object takes up. It can also be defined as what is enclosed within a three-dimensional object. So if I were to fill this with water, that would be the volume of this rectangular prism. The important thing to note about volume is that when we're doing rectangular and triangular prisms, these are right prisms, meaning that there is a base that is parallel to another base, and they are congruent, meaning they're exactly the same. So this triangle here is congruent to the other side, this triangle, and they are parallel to each other. This one, this rectangular prism, I have these two sides that are parallel to each other. I have this big flat side that's parallel to each other, and then I have these two sides that are parallel to each other. So there are altogether 6 sides, 3 of which are parallel to each other. So first, on the FLN, you must decide what the shape of the base is. And again, we're not going to start thinking about base as the object that's towards the ground. We're going to think of base as the two shapes that are parallel to each other. So the base of this is a triangle because these two triangles are parallel to each other. And the base of this one is a rectangle because these rectangles are all parallel to each other. It doesn't matter if I sit it like this, or like this, or like this, okay? The base is still the two sides that are parallel to each other. Again, with this, it doesn't matter how I sit this guy. The base is the two sides that are parallel. So once you've determined what the base is, you need to find the area of the base shape. So let's work on example 1. So to get started with this one, this rectangular prism, I need to recognize first that the two bases I'm going to use are rectangles. So first I have to find the area of the rectangles. And the area of the rectangles in the FLN, we're going to define volume equals the area of the base. I'm going to do that as a giant, designate that as a big B, a capital B, times the height of the prism. So this flat part is my base and this is my height. So when I'm doing that, first I'm going to find the area of this base. And area equals base times height. And I have 4/3 times 3/4. And when I multiply 4/3 times 3/4, these both cancel out, and I'm left with 1 inch squared. So the cameraman brought up a good point. When you're doing a rectangular prism, you choose which is the base. And I choose this one because I knew 4/3 times 3/4 is going to give me 1, which is an easier calculation.
Color it in, Mom.
What's that? So for the first one, I'm taking the area of the base, meaning this big flat part that's on the bottom. So I'm taking this rectangle right here that's on the bottom. And the length is 4/3, and the width this way is 3/4. Now to find volume of the entire three-dimensional object, I need to multiply it by the height of the prism. So I've taken the base here, now I'm going to multiply it by the height. And the height is 4/5. So I've got volume equals 1 inch squared, that's the area of the base, times the height, 4/5 inches. So the volume of this rectangular prism is 4/5 times 1 inch, which is 4/5 inches cubed. Okay, the second example has a triangular prism. So again, we need to recognize what the base that is parallel to the two sides is. And on this one, the base is these two sides here that are the triangles. Here's the front triangle, and here's the rear triangle. And they're parallel to each other. So I know that the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. And again, we're not really calling it area in these, we're going to call it B for the area of the base. So if I'm saying 1/2 base times height, this is a right angle, so I know that here's my base and here's my height of this front-facing triangle. So when I do that, I have 1/2 12 times 5, and I know that half of 12 is 6, and 6 times 5 is 30, so that front face has an area of 30 meters squared, and it's meters squared because they're both meters. Now, in order to find the volume of the prism, I now take the area of this front face, or base, the base, which is parallel to each other, and I multiply it by the height. And this is how tall or long or high this is. So I'm going to take 30 meters squared and multiply it by 9 meters. And when I do that, I get 270 meters cubed. And that is the volume of this triangular prism. The last example is one in which you're given the volume and you need to find the missing dimension or the missing length. So the example is Alexandra is making a chocolate cake for her family. The cake is a right rectangular prism. So when you're making a cake, right, you have a cake pan. Here's her cake pan. Okay, we're given the cake pan, and we're told that it's 20 centimeters wide and it is 28 centimeters long. And we're also told that the volume of cake batter that she has is 1,848 centimeters squared. And what they want to know is how deep or how high is the cake batter. So we're going to make that a variable. It's a question mark. It'll be a variable h. So let's write the equation. So we know that the area of the base, again, the base is this flat part here on the bottom. We know that the area of that is going to be 20 centimeters times 28 centimeters. And then to get volume, we know that we have to multiply that by this height, which is a variable that we don't know, but we're given the volume. So now that I have all my parts, I can plug them in. For volume, I'm going to put 848. I'm going to leave off my units right now, just because it gets kind of messy with my variable. Now I have 20 times 28, which is 560, times the height. So then now I have a one-step equation with one variable. So in order to solve this, all I have to do is divide both sides by 560. These cancel out, and I'm left with h is equal to 3.3. And this unit is going to be centimeters. And if you want to look at unit analysis, this is centimeters cubed. This is centimeters. This is centimeters squared, and this is centimeters squared. Sorry, this is centimeters squared. So then when I cancel them out, I'm left with centimeters is the height. So the height of her cake batter is 3.3 centimeters.